Welcome to a new Team CGC 9.8 video. So today I wanted to focus on some of these really cool under the radar G.I. Joe covers that I think have become really collected among G.I. Joe fans, and I know I'm a big G.I. Joe fan and I find myself kind of wanting a lot of these covers. So on the video here though, we will focus on just some underfollowed G.I. Joe books. I still really recommend the big G.I. Joe keys. So like G.I. Joe #1 in the 9.8, all the first appearances, Baroness, Cobra Commander, Snake Eyes, like such a great one. There's G.I. Joe 21, the first appearance of Storm Shadow, really rare in the 9.8. That's like $1,500 in the 9.8 for the first print. G.I. Joe #6 is the first October Guard. That's basically like the Russian G.I. Joe team, the Russian equivalent, kind of. And then another big G.I. Joe key that's a really kind of obvious key, I think, is G.I. Joe Special #1, the Spider-Man #1 homage from kind of the mid-90s there. Great. So I still recommend those main keys, but on this video, I do want to focus on some of these underfollowed ones. And a lot of the prices are better on, like if you're on a budget, a lot, you know, G.I. Joe 1, G.I. Joe 21, really expensive in the 9.8. So these are more affordable. So let's get right into it here. First one, I got a G.I. Joe #43 I want to talk about. G.I. Joe, a real American hero, #43. So this is a great looking cover by Zeck. Really eye-appealing cover right off the bat, I think. Pretty collected among G.I. Joe fans. I was doing a little bit of research to try to find out like who this is on the cover, because there is a first appearance of Scrap Iron. It's first appearance of Scrap Iron in this, but I would more kind of want this because of the cover, to be honest. I was doing a little research, and because there's like you know, 3 or 4 deaths in this, or it's like it looks like they die, but apparently and they end up not dying, but it looks like there's 3 or 4 deaths in this issue. So this is apparently Death, or the Angel of Death is what I read in a blog on the cover here. But yeah, regardless of who it is, looks really cool. Zeck just nailed it on this one. There's 49 CGC 9.8s in the blue label for this one out there. So pretty well collected. Like, you know, it's not just a, you know, straight up non-key. Like, people are focusing on this one because the cover is just so cool, I think, for sure. I do get the first appearance of Scrap Iron. 59% the CGC 9.8 ratio, so of all graded copies, 59% of them are CGC 9.8. So that's not too bad. I think with this list, it's more about the, except one of them actually, but more about these lower numbered items, because these are kind of non-key underfollowed ones. But G.I. Joe #43, I find myself just kind of wanting this one because pricing. Saw one on eBay sell for $159.99, and it was kind of like a buy it now. On Go Collect, it says the fair market value is $160. So yeah, I think right around $160 these will sell. I think, is there one online? Oh, there's a Canadian price variant online right now in the 9.8 for a lot more money. But, you know, I think a direct or a newsstand in the normal version for about $160 is a really great buy. And I could see G.I. Joe collectors gravitating to this one over time, and I think they already are with like 49 9.8s out there. It's certainly more popular than your average non-key G.I. Joe book. So one to consider. Yeah, G.I. Joe #43, such a cool cover. Next one here you don't want to sleep on. It's a G.I. Joe, a real American hero, #109. So a really cool one, great cover. I love these kind of Cobra Commander centric covers, but you get Snake Eyes on this one too. So a bunch of people die in this issue, and a quick shout out too on Instagram. Team member Wayne had kind of got in touch with me and was kind of, because I mentioned G.I. Joe 100 on one of our videos, and he was like, oh, check out 109 too. And I completely agree with him. Yeah, he's got a 9.8, so 109 is really cool. There's 20 9.8s out there. Yeah, so only 20 of these. A bunch of people die in this issue. Really cool cover. 1 of 20 collector item. This one's pretty cool, I think. 62.5% the 9.8 ratio. So I actually saw one on eBay. It was like $225 or best offer it sold. So I wasn't sure the exact price on that one, but I think about $175 to $200 with only 20 of these in the 9.8 with kind of the cool, I think, during this era of G.I. Joe's, pretty underrated, but they're just great looking books, like great colors on this one and everything. So I think if you can get this one for $175, there was a $225 or best offer that sold in the CGC 9.8 white pages, so that probably went for about $175. Because yeah, Go Collect wasn't giving me the fair value for this one. I think you got to pay. So, but a cool one to consider, G.I. Joe number 109. Okay, next one, a really cool one too. This one reminds me of something. It's a G.I. Joe number 126. G.I. Joe Real American Hero number 126. So you get the close-up of a Firefly on the cover, and to me, this guy, it's a close-up, and he kind of looks like a Mortal Kombat, like a Sub-Zero or a Scorpion or something from the Mortal Kombat, or Reptile or something like that. But it's a close-up of Firefly, really well executed cover. It was Andrew Wildman doing the cover art on this one. So I just like the eye appeal to this cover, and in the 9.8 on the census, there's 24 CGC 9.8s out there. So this one maybe not as popular as some of these Cobra Commander Snake Eyes covers, but I think just as cool, to be honest. Yeah, and a 1 of 24 collector item, pretty cool. Loving the colors on this one too, from this sort of early 90s, the 90s era of G.I. Joe, which I think is just kind of pretty underrated. And they get pretty low printed too in the last few issues there. But this one just looking really cool, 24 in the 9.8, 50% of all graded copies are CGC 9.8. So yeah, not too rare there or anything. Just a 1 of 24 collector item in the perfect 9.8 I think is pretty cool in this one. So this one would be interesting. I wasn't seeing any completed listings, and Go Collect's not giving me any final prices. So I actually think probably like 100 to 150 on this one. You know, in an auction, you get really lucky, you see one looking good, maybe closer to 100. But most people, I would imagine, probably getting a buy it now price from like 125 to 150 in this book. But a cool one to consider, yeah. And I just think being kind of a Mortal Kombat fan, and it looks like the cover just looks like a Sub-Zero or something like that. So I thought that was pretty cool about it too. But I wanted to consider, yeah, G.I. Joe number 126. So next one here, we got a G.I. Joe number 63. So this one is probably one of the more popular ones on the list here, but it's really affordable as well. Yeah, a cool kind of Snake Eyes cover that's really collectible. Mike Zeck, and I think it's Bob McLeod on the cover on this one. Yeah, there's 54 CGC 9.8s of this one out there, so a little bit more than kind of the last few here. Yeah, similar to the first one, G.I. Joe 43 in kind of popularity, I think. This one's a little bit cheaper though, 64.3% to 9.8 ratio, so similar ratios on most of these. Some of the completed listings for this one in an auction, under 100. So yeah, some of these auctions going for kind of in the $80 to $90 range. I did see one sell for $99.99, and then there was like one like a $99.99 or best offer had sold. So conceivably, yeah, you can get this one for sure under 100, maybe even like $80 if you're really lucky. And yeah, if you're a Snake Eyes fan, maybe on a budget, you know, first Snake Eyes is in G.I. Joe number 1, which I love this one as a great investment grade 9.8. But if you're on a budget and a little more followed one under the radar here, G.I. Joe 63 is one to consider. Hopefully around $80 to $90 would be a really great deal, I think, in that one. So next one is, I think, a true investment grade 9.8, because, you know, the last few are just, I think, great collector items, and they look so cool, so you can really enjoy having them. But this one, G.I. Joe, a Real American Hero, number 155. It's the last issue of the G.I. Joe series, and kind of ending there in the mid 90s. But this one, it's a lot more expensive. It's more collected. If we have a look on the census, I'll kind of explain why it's so expensive. 105 CGC 9.8s out there, so 1 of 105 collector item is pretty cool. The 9.8 ratio is 17%. So of all graded copies, only 17% of them are 9.8s, whereas, you know, most of the issues were like 64 or 50%, 60% of all graded copies were CGC 9.8s. This one, only 17% of them are CGC 9.8. So this is a tough one to find in the 9.8. That's really favorable for a mid-90s book. So this one is kind of making sense, actually, because Go Collect's giving me a fair market value of $375. And if I had a look on eBay for some completed listings, and one did sell for $409.99 just in the last month here, then there was really only that one had sold. There's a couple on eBay right now, I think around the $500 level. That might be something to consider. I think one might have been a best offer. But yeah, this G.I. Joe 155 is really collectible. It's a cool cover, and it's pretty rare. It's really rare in the 9.8 for kind of a mid-90s book. So I think this one, if you can get under 400, I think that makes a lot of sense in the 9.8 with a really low 9.8 ratio for a mid-90s book. If you're a G.I. Joe fan, yeah, this is probably one that could have been with the main keys that I just talked about really quickly at the beginning. But G.I. Joe 155, the last issue, a true investment grade book, and anywhere under 400 I think is a decent buy in the CGC 9.8 if you wanted it. Okay, last one here. It's a G.I. Joe number 100. Yeah, so I talked about this one on a couple videos ago as just being a good kind of sleeper, underfollowed one. But just a vintage Cobra Commander cover that I think has some potential. One thing to mention too, this is like a giant size collector issue kind of thing, and it was mentioned to me, someone on the team, and it's a good point, some of these giant sized books are really are a lot tougher to get in the CGC 9.8. There's just way more spine defects on a larger book. So this one is a little bit more rare in the CGC 9.8, and it's harder to find, I think, in the 9.8. You know, even Amazing Spider-Man 300 is one of the rarest 9.8s out there, and it's a giant-sized annuals. And there's quite a lot of those kind of giant-sized comic books in the 9.8 that have pretty rare, low 9.8 ratios. But G.I. Joe number 100 still really underfollowed, but I think over time it could become more rare because it is a giant-sized one. Only 25 in the 9.8 in the blue label, so 1 to 25 for like, this is the coolest Cobra Commander cover in all the G.I. Joe comics, I think. 40.3% the 9.8 ratio, so of all graded copies, 40.3% of them are 9.8s, so below 50%, whereas most of the similar comparable books were all over, they were like 59, 60, 62. So a little bit more rare in the 9.8, and I think that's because it is a giant size. But great looking cover, so collectible. I kind of want this one, to be honest. There was a completed listing in the CGC 9.8 for $225 in the last month, I think it was. One had sold in an auction too, so that kind of surprised me. I thought this was an under 200 book, but over $225 in an auction. Maybe if you're lucky you get it closer to 200, but only one of 25 out there. And yeah, if you're like me, I really like kind of villains, and this is just one of those villains covers that kind of really sticks out. So yeah, I don't really blame anyone paying $225 for this one in the CGC 9.8. It's just looking great and you really want this one. This is one I think you could enjoy and definitely want to consider, hopefully closer to 200, but G.I. Joe, Real American Hero number 100 in the CGC 9.8. Don't sleep on that one. Yeah, it's a cool underfollowed one. Okay, so that's the list of 6 there. 6 underfollowed, under the radar G.I. Joe cool cover comics to consider. And definitely doesn't mean I don't like the big main key issues as well. I just wanted to focus on the underfollowed ones for this video. But yeah, just concluding up here, and actually we'll do quick kind of top 3 picks here. Why not? So yeah, first one, I just think I really want this one, and I'm just sort of attracted to it. The last one we hit on, G.I. Joe number 100 is kind of my first top pick. And I think it's kind of personal, being a villains guy, just love the cover. It's, yeah, Ron Wagner and Bob McLeod team up on the cover there. So G.I. Joe number 100, probably my top pick. Next one, G.I. Joe number 155. Yeah, with that really nice low 9.8 ratio, I wasn't really aware of that. I knew this was more expensive, and I knew it was a well-collected, and the last, I think it's 5 or 10 issues of G.I. Joe are low-printed. So this one's low-printed, but I didn't know the 9.8 ratio was that low, and that's kind of why the price is a little more expensive. But I think this one is a really just good, serious kind of investment-grade key. So second pick, yeah, G.I. Joe 155. Third one, G.I. Joe Real American Hero number 43. Yeah, just loving that, like Mike Zeck, Angel of Death, I guess who that is on the cover with the machine gun. But so well done, looking so cool. Just one that I would really enjoy having, I think. So yeah, those are the top 3 picks there. Okay, yeah, we'll conclude up here. I just was, you know, I got a G.I. Joe. I think, you know, I got a G.I. Joe number 1 in the 9.8, luckily. A G.I. Joe number 21 in the 9.8. I really want that too, but it's so expensive. It's like 1,500-ish in the 9.8 for the first print. So it made me kind of start looking at maybe some more affordable options for G.I. Joe books and coming up with just some really cool covers, I think. I think these are really collectible and cool covers, but at great prices, yeah. And I think, you know, I really want a G.I. Joe 21, but I don't know, you know, if I'm at the point right now where I want to spend 1,500 on another 9.8. So yeah, that's how I just kind of came to getting into some of these more underfollowed G.I. Joe books, and they're really cool. So I do kind of recommend them, and yeah, definitely ones to consider if you're on more of a budget, but you're a huge G.I. Joe fan for sure. All right, if you haven't already, I would invite you to join the team and subscribe to Team CGC 9.8. Hit the bell for all the latest video notifications, and add me on Instagram and Twitter. All the links in the description below for all that. But yeah, really fun to cover some of these yeah, underfollowed G.I. Joe books that are just so cool. Yeah, I would just have a great pride of ownership if I had pretty much any of these in the 9.8. Yeah, just all really cool. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate all the support. Message me on Instagram if you had any messages, any questions asked. But thanks again for all the support. Really appreciate you watching and subscribing, and I'll see you on the next one.